Welcome back, Tano. Today we're breaking down Citrine in the wake of the Weaver update. She picked up a sleek new deluxe skin and, more importantly, her new augment, Prismatic Companion for her third ability, Prismatic Gem. This one change is massive. Prismatic Gem isn't a stationary turret anymore. With the augment equipped, the gem attaches itself to your free-moving companion. Your pet turns into a portable beam engine that follows you wherever you go. No more babysitting or repositioning the gem, and you're not forced to play around a fixed spot on the map. The augment also gives you a flat 50% increase to the gem's duration, letting you keep the beams up for much longer before you need to recast. It's a straight upgrade, but there's a catch. Your companion isn't always the sharpest pathfinder, so sometimes the positioning is unpredictable. But the trade-off is worth it. For most missions, your pet is glued to your side or deep in the fray, dragging that gem into the middle of every fight and spreading status beams wherever the action is hottest. This is the build that turns Citrine from a passive support into the backbone of the most aggressive companion-driven damage setup in the game. Let's walk through Citrine's whole kit, starting with her passive and then moving down the list. If you're new to her or just want a refresher, here's how it all fits together. Citrine's passive is simple. She puts out a healing aura in a 50-meter radius, which is just the game's standard affinity range. The buff is called Geoluminescence. If you're standing near her, you get a steady trickle of health back, 5 per second by default. Every health orb you grab bumps that up by 0.1, and if you keep scooping up orbs, you'll eventually hit a hard cap of 25 health per second after 200 pickups. The best part is you can collect health orbs even when your health is full, so you're always stacking that regen until it's maxed. Mods that boost affinity range don't affect this, and only Warframes get the benefit. Companions and NPCs are left out. If you aren't getting one shot, this passive quietly keeps your squad alive. Fractured Blast is your main source of utility. You tap the button and Citrine fires out a fan of crystal shards. Anything in the cone gets hit with impact and slash damage, and both procs are guaranteed. When you slash an enemy with this, you'll see a crystal icon above their head. Kill them, and they'll drop extra health and energy orbs. That feeds right back into her passive, letting you ramp up that healing and keep everyone's energy steady. You can even spam Fractured Blast on the same target to keep the orb drop window up. The ability also breaks objects through walls, so loot rooms become much easier to clear. Stack this with loot or status arcanes, and you end up with orbs everywhere. It's dead simple, but absolutely essential to how Citrine works. Preserving Shell is what keeps you and your team alive when things get rough. Hit it and you put up a personal damage reduction shield for yourself and anyone in affinity range. It starts at 40%, but can scale all the way up to 90% with kills, assists, or just more ability strength. For the record, you'll need at least 225% ability strength to hit that 90% DR cap instantly. Otherwise, you'll build it up over time with kills and assists. The damage reduction decays over time, but every kill or assist pauses that decay and adds more DR. If you see the timer getting low or the value dropping, just recast and you're back in business. In endurance runs or steelpath, this is probably the cleanest no-nonsense team DR tool you can run. Prismatic Gem with the Prismatic Companion augment is the real game changer. Instead of dropping a stationary gem, this mod sticks it to your companion, turning your pet into a walking status turret. Whenever you or your squad hit an enemy in the gem's range, it shoots out beams that inflict heat, cold, toxin, and electricity procs, all at the same time. Doesn't matter if there are walls or weird sidelines, those beams will hit. While you're in the field, everyone gets a big buff to status chance and status duration. And the augment lets the gem last half again as long. That means more status stacking, so mods like Condition Overload, Galvanize mods, and status-based arcanes go wild. If you want your companion to actually do real damage and help clear rooms, this is what finally makes it possible. Now for the swap, I replace Crystallize with Roar. Crystallize is flashy and can lock down a bunch of enemies, but at the end of the day, it's just crowd control with a crit trick that needs a bunch of setup and only really pays off in a tight window. Roar is the opposite. Just hit it once and your whole squad gets 30% more damage on everything, abilities and weapons included. It also buffs status procs twice over, so every tick, every slash, and every beam gets stronger. Roar just works in every mission, every build, and actually scales with your kit. If you want damage and you want consistency, there's no debate, you run Roar. Let's get into the real meat of this Citrine build. Every mod, every arcane, every slot has a job. There's no filler and no dead weight. First, the arcanes. I'm running Molt Augmented and Arcane Impetus. Molt Augmented is simple and brutal. Every kill, from any source, including your companion, gives you a permanent stack of ability strength up to a cap of 60%. You want your power to scale the longer you play. And this arcane guarantees it as long as you stay alive. You max it out after 250 kills, and the bonus doesn't go away unless you die. It's one of the best long-term power boosts for any Warframe that wants high strength. With Citrine, it just lets you slam past all those important strength breakpoints. Arcane Impetus is here because it takes full advantage of how many status effects Citrine and her companion can throw out. Every unique status type you land with abilities adds another 6% ability strength and 3% ability efficiency for up to 14 unique statuses. In practice, that's a possible 84% strength and 42% efficiency at the top end. With all the different status procs coming from Prismatic Gem, this arcane can easily stay stacked up in most fights. If you want a build that goes all in on ability spam and raw output, Arcane Impetus is perfect. The aura slot is Summoner's Wrath. There's nothing subtle about this one. You get 75% more damage for every companion and summon on your squad, and it even applies a second time to status DOT. That means any status proc from your pet's beam or your own abilities gets this bonus twice. It's the best way to push companion damage up, and there's no better choice if you're building around nuking rooms with your pet. Power Drift is my Exilus choice. The 15% ability strength stacks up with everything else, and the knockdown resistance means you're not getting tossed around and losing momentum in the middle of a fight. It's a small mod that fills a real gap, and every bit of strength helps you hit those thresholds like 225% for instant 90% DR with Preserving Shell. The main mod section is all about synergy. 4 Archon mods make the backbone here: Flow, Continuity, Vitality, and Stretch. Archon Flow is your energy battery, pushing your max energy up by 185%. Every time you kill with a cold ability, like Prismatic Gem's cold proc, you have a chance to drop a big energy orb. This keeps your ability spam sustainable, even with Blind Rage in the mix. Archon Continuity gives you 55% more ability duration, and every toxin proc from your gem turns into a corrosive proc as well. This means you're stacking corrosive for armor strip on top of every other status you're throwing out. Archon Vitality doubles the heat procs from your abilities. When your gem hits with heat, it applies that status effect twice, which helps stack up more damage and feeds mods and arcanes that care about heat. Archon Stretch rounds out the set with a straight 45% ability range, which is essential for keeping your gems field as wide as possible. Every time you proc electricity with your abilities, you regenerate energy over time. All 4 Archon mods together mean every part of your kit is running at full tilt, with every status effect stacking, and you're never dry on energy unless you're not playing aggressively. Blind Rage is here for pure ability strength, cranking it up by 99%. Yes, it hits your efficiency, but with Arcane Impetus, Power Drift, and the energy support from Archon Flow and Stretch, you barely notice. Adaptation is the backbone of your survivability. It gives you stacking damage resist up to 90% for whatever type of damage you're taking. This mod multiplies with your Preserving Shell and whatever DR you get from adaptation, keeping you tanky enough for anything short of a one-shot. Prismatic Companion is non-negotiable. This is the augment that makes the whole build. It glues your gem to your companion and bumps its duration by 50%. If you aren't running this, you're not running the build. Precision Intensify is the last slot, and it pushes ability strength for your 4th ability, which for me is Roar. It gives a flat 90% bonus, so every time you hit Roar, that buff is bigger and better for the whole team. This also works if you're running a Helminth ability in that slot, and since Roar is the best choice for flat damage in this setup, Precision Intensify stacks right on top. Every mod and arcane in this build is picked for a reason. Strength hits every breakpoint you care about. Duration, range, and energy keep the loop running. Companion and summon damage is cranked up. You get real survivability, energy economy, and more damage than you know what to do with. Here's how I set up the Tau Forged Archon Shards for this Citrine build. First, I use an Amber Shard with a bonus that fills 45% of my maximum energy when I spawn. This one is on almost all my builds because it lets me cast abilities right away after I revive or jump in. Next, I run a Violet Shard with the Equilibrium perk. Anytime I pick up a health orb, I get 30% of that value as extra energy. Same deal in reverse. Picking up an energy orb gives me 30% of that as health. It's another layer of sustain and helps keep both bars topped off through any mission. For duration, I slot in 2 Crimson Shards, each one giving 15% ability duration. That extra duration keeps my buffs and abilities rolling longer, especially Prismatic Gem and Preserving Shell, which means less time recasting and more time at full power. The last slot is another Crimson Shard, this time for ability strength. It adds 15% flat ability strength on top of everything else, helping me hit and break through those key breakpoints for maximum DR and harder hitting abilities. Altogether, these 5 shards make the build smoother, stronger, and way less dependent on external energy or health sources. You get instant ability use after a death, better sustain from orbs, longer buff times, and more overall strength, all in one tight package. Here's how I run my rotation in missions. First, I cast Roar. This gives me and my whole squad a flat damage boost on all abilities, weapons, and status procs. It's the best way to start, since everything that follows will hit harder and scale better. Next, I cast Prismatic Gem. This sets up my companion as a mobile status turret. With the augment, The gem attaches to my pet, so everywhere my companion goes, enemies get blasted with heat, cold, electricity, and toxin procs. This turns your companion into a constant source of status and helps set up condition overload and all your status-based damage. After that, I cast Preserving Shell. This gives me and any teammates in affinity range a personal shield for damage reduction. The shield starts strong and can be built up with kills or assists, and every time I refresh it, I lock in more survivability for the whole team. From there, my regular cast is Fractured Blast. I use this on groups of enemies to inflict guaranteed impact and slash procs. This not only increases orb drops for healing and energy, but also stacks more status for all the synergies in the build. Fractured Blast keeps feeding my passive, powers up my team, and helps control the flow of any fight. That's the loop. Roar for damage, Prismatic Gem for status, Preserving Shell for survivability, and Fractured Blast as your regular tool for crowd control and sustain. Stick to this rotation and the build handles just about anything. The companion is a core part of this build and does serious work every mission. For this setup, I am running the Pharaoh Predasite. I first used it on my mecha set Rhino, but with Citrine it finally has a place where it pulls real weight. The way it works here, the Predasite is essential to the whole setup and brings utility most other companions just can't match. The core of the companion is simple. It applies bonus elements, spreads status, and strips armor. Anabolic Pollination is the only precept for Pharaoh Predasite I run here. It drops clouds that give a 100% toxin damage buff to any ally who touches them. This means more raw elemental stacking for your weapons and your squad, not just for the companion. This is the main precept that helps tie the rest of the build together. Momentous Bond adds big value. Every time you or your companion kills an Eximus, the companion gets a 120% bonus of a random elemental damage for 30 seconds. This can stack and even overlap, giving your pet every elemental type at once. It also helps keep your companion from being out of the fight too long by reducing its recovery timer whenever the buff triggers. Contagious Bond means any enemy your pet kills with status procs will spread half of those procs to every enemy within 9 meters. This is how you get room-wide status explosions, especially with the amount of viral, toxin, and armor strip you're stacking with the rest of this build. Vicious Bond lets your companion's melee hit strip 15% armor from every enemy. If a target was recently hit by any ability, this armor strip spreads to all nearby enemies. This mod helps soften up even the tankiest targets and speeds up every kill. Tandem Bond connects your pet's melee hits directly to your own melee combo. Every melee hit from the companion adds to your combo counter. If you heavy attack, your pet's melee damage goes up for the next 30 seconds, and the bonus scales off your current combo multiplier. This is free extra damage and always running in the background. Calculated Redirection, Mecha Recharge, and Reinforced Bond all push your companion's shields over the 1200 mark. Calculated Redirection gives plus 250% shield capacity. Mecha Recharge ramps up shield recharge by 90%. Reinforced Bond rewards you for stacking this by giving your Warframe a flat 60% fire rate buff anytime your pet is over 1200 shields, and reloading gives your companion 150 over shields. This synergy is easy to keep active on a Predasite and is a major reason for picking this breed in the first place. Scene Deconstruct is for sustain. Any enemy hit by your companion has a 25% chance to drop a health orb. This feeds equilibrium, gives you more healing, and makes energy sustain that much easier. The last slot is Fetch, which is just quality of life. Loot, ammo, and mods within 13.5 meters get pulled in, so you never have to worry about missing pickups mid-fight. The end result is a companion that spreads status, buffs your weapons, strips armor, keeps you loaded with health and energy, and pushes your overall team DPS higher. Moving on, here is my Pharaoh Claws build. The real value of this comes from stacking status chance and critical chance on my primary weapon, then letting those numbers carry over to my companion's claws. This is how I get constant procs and crits with every hit. For the claw stance, I use Protector Posture. This makes the Predasite prioritize enemies within 15 meters of you, so it's always focused on the biggest threats near your Warframe. On top of that, every attack inflicts 4 puncture procs, which helps soften up anything it bites into. The mod setup is built to maximize damage, status, and synergy with my primary weapon stats. Maul gives a flat 330% melee damage boost, while Bite cranks both critical chance and critical damage up by 330% and 220%. Hunter Synergy passes 30% of your primary weapon's total critical chance directly to your companion, stacking after Bite. This is a major boost if your primary is modded for big crit numbers. Sepsis Claws pushes toxin damage and status chance up by 330%, and it converts all elemental damage from the claws into toxin. This keeps the status output high and gives a huge boost to condition overload style scaling. Precision Conditioning does double duty, adding 385% melee damage and turning all base physical damage into pure slash. That means more bleed procs and more consistent damage against high-level targets. Magnetic Claws gives an extra 60% magnetic damage and 40% status duration, layering in another status type and making procs last longer. Mecha Overdrive is a set mod that adds 60% of your primary weapon status chance to the companion and boosts status duration by another 90%. When combined with a high status primary, your claws will never miss a proc. Call the Weak is the closer. It adds 60% melee damage for every unique status on the target, and any non-critical hits deal 240% extra damage. Since your claws stack so many status effects, this can push damage even higher on anything that isn't getting red crits. Now let me show you why everything here runs off the stats from your primary weapon. My pick is Paris Prime with Incarnon Genesis, and with the Elemental Balance perk selected on its 4th evolution. This gives the bow a flat 60% increase to its base status chance before any mods are applied, which is massive for boosting how much status chance gets sent to the companion through Mecha Overdrive, because Mecha Overdrive calculates its bonus from the total modded status chance on the primary weapon. I treat this bow as a pure stat stick, not something I actually shoot. For status chance, I run Malignant Force, Hammer Shot, Rifle Aptitude, Rhyme Rounds, Thermite Rounds, High Voltage, and Visage Bile in the Exilus slot. Critical Delay is the only mod here for critical chance. Hunter Synergy takes the total critical chance from your primary weapon and passes 30% of it straight to your companion. Mecha Overdrive does the same for status chance, sending 60% of your total to the companion's claws. I left an empty slot in this build until I found the right Riven. Now I have a Paris Riven with plus 86% status chance, plus 146% critical chance, and minus 84.9% weapon recoil. This roll is exactly what you want here, because stacking status and crit on your primary makes your companion that much stronger through Hunter Synergy and Mecha Overdrive. With this Riven, the numbers that get passed to the Pharaoh Claws are even higher. Every hit from your companion now has a much better chance for crits and multiple status procs. You can see the difference right away. That's why the Pharaoh Claws end up with massive critical and status numbers. Every swipe is loaded with procs and crits. And you never need to fire the bow. The whole setup is about stacking those stats and letting your companion do all the work. I use the Kuva Nukor as my secondary because it stacks status effects fast, hits hard, and keeps my build moving even when my primary weapon isn't for direct damage. This gun applies so many procs that it boosts my whole loadout and does real damage by itself. Starting with the Arcane, I run secondary Enervate. This Arcane gives me a flat 10% critical chance every time I hit something. The bonus keeps stacking with each hit until I score 6 big crits. Those are the orange and red crits you see when your crit chance goes over 100%. After 6 of those big crits, the bonus resets and I can start stacking it all over again. This Arcane is perfect for the Kuva Nukor because the crit multiplier is so high, but the base crit chance is low. With Enervate, you get real value from the multiplier and can see red crits even with a status-focused setup. The Exilus slot is Ruinous Extension. All this does is give the main beam an extra 8 meters of range, letting me tag enemies from farther out. It doesn't affect the chained beams, only the primary one. But it's pure quality of life and helps the weapon do its job as a status spreader in bigger tile sets. Now for the main mods. First is Galvanized Diffusion, which gives 110% multi-shot and stacks up to 4 times. After kills for even more multi-shot. The more you kill, the more beams you fire at once, which means more status effects per shot. Lethal Torrent adds another 60% multi-shot and 60% fire rate, speeding up how fast you apply procs. Hornet Strike is my damage backbone, multiplying all base damage by 220%, so every status tick and hit lands harder. On the crit side, I use Primed Pistol Gambit for 187% critical chance, and Primed Target Cracker for 110% critical damage. With these two and secondary Enervate, I can actually hit meaningful crits with a gun that starts with only 7% base crit chance. This lets the Kuva Nukor's 5-time crit multiplier actually matter, especially on chained targets. For status, I slot Pistol Pestilence for Toxin and status chance, and Frostbite for cold and more status chance. These two combine with Galvanized Shot, which gives another 80% status chance up front and boosts your direct hit damage for every status effect on the target after a kill, stacking up to 3 times. The more statuses you can apply, the more this weapon ramps up in both damage and setup potential. Every mod here is chosen to either push status chance, spread more procs, or actually let the critical stats matter thanks to secondary Enervate. The Kuva Nukor isn't just here for status. I use it to kill as well, since my primary is set up purely as a stat stick for my companion. This gun applies a ton of different status effects, sets up your companion, and can clear groups of enemies all on its own. Moving on to the melee weapon I have selected for this build. Spinnerex is Oraxia's signature melee weapon, and I have to say I was not expecting it to be this good. I can confidently say this is the new best whip in Warframe. Normally, whips get overlooked when you're picking a melee weapon, but Spinnerex changes everything because of its unique explosion trait. When an enemy you've hit with Spinnerex dies, they have a 10% chance per toxin stack to explode, spreading toxin damage in a 10-meter radius. Each explosion will only spread one toxin proc, but the raw damage is still high, and it can cause a chain reaction if you're fighting a crowd. The synergy here is perfect with Citrine's Prismatic Gem, since every attack you land applies heat, cold, electricity, and toxin. That means you're always stacking up the procs needed to trigger those toxin explosions, and you get even more value out of status-focused mods and abilities. Starting with the Arcane, I use melee influence. Whenever I proc electricity with a melee hit, I have a 20% chance to trigger a buff that spreads all elemental status effects to nearby enemies for 18 seconds. This is a game changer for crowd control and for making sure toxin, heat, cold, and everything else is spreading through the room. The effect can't be refreshed until it runs out, but once it's going, your status effects just start leaping from target to target, making sure the toxin bomb is primed and ready. The stance slot is Coiling Viper. Spinnerex has the matching polarity, and this stance is built for mobility and fast swings. You zip around, hit more targets, and the first combo even adds some bonus impact and elemental damage to the mix. The mods I run are all about stacking status and pushing the weapon's damage as far as it'll go. Galvanized Steel boosts your critical chance and adds more critical damage every time you get a melee kill. Galvanized Elementalist works for status. Increasing your status damage and stacking even more status chance the more kills you rack up. Primed Reach is here for more range, so every swing covers more ground and tags more bodies. Virulent Scourge and Vicious Frost both ramp up your elemental damage and make your status chance skyrocket, which is key for triggering toxin explosions and feeding condition overload. Shocking Touch brings electricity, which you need for melee influence, and also helps with stacking more elements. Spring-Loaded Blade gives you extra range every time you proc status. With Spinnerex, that's pretty much every swing, so your hitbox gets huge. Condition Overload finishes it off, scaling your melee damage for every unique status effect on the enemy, which is easy to max out with all your gear and Prismatic Gem helping. What you end up with is a whip that wipes groups, chains explosions, and keeps your melee slot feeling useful in any content. Spinnerex can clear waves, set off chain reactions, and actually compete with the top melee weapons in the game. Spinnerex finally makes whips a real pick in Warframe. You get area of effect, chain reaction kills, and a weapon that just feels good when you see that toxin explosions start bouncing from one body to the next. For my final thoughts, Citrine is and always will be one of the best offensive support frames in the game. She brings a fast, active playstyle, real survivability, and a huge damage boost for you and your squad. The new augment takes things to a whole new level, letting you play her as a gun and melee powerhouse and turning your companion into a room-clearing nuke. If you've only seen Citrine as a passive healer or support, this setup shows what she's really capable of. Give this build a real shot in your next run. Let me know if you'd tweak anything, or share your own Citrine moments in the comments. If this helped you out, hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one, Tenno.